Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And before I begin my remarks in English, I will share a few words in Spanish. So, buenas tardes. Parece que tendremos un clima de invierno muy grave que viene hacia nuestra ciudad. Estoy aquí para informar cómo nos estamos preparando para la tormenta y lo que usted tiene que hacer para estar seguro. Más adelante, Sal Meléndez hablará con los medios de habla hispana para dar un informe completo. Muchísimas gracias. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Okay, here we are. It looks like we are going to have a round of very serious winter weather heading toward our city. We're getting ready for the arrival of Winter Storm Landon, which is a big storm. I'm sure you've seen this. It's spreading over a 2,000-mile-long part of the country. It has created a mess of ice and snow from Texas to the Northeast. I've been in contact with the governor. We're talking about what's going on in the state and certainly here in the city as well. I really appreciate the state's forward-looking approach toward this storm. The governor has declared a state of emergency in advance of the storm, and I appreciate the extraordinary work of this administration to keep Kentuckiana safe. So our local partners and I just got off a conference call with the National Weather Service, and we're here to give everyone an update on the storm we're tracking and the preparations underway at Metro government to keep people safe. We're here in our Metro Emergency Operations Center. The EOC's alert status right now is level 1, which is basically just an awareness level. Tomorrow morning, we'll open the EOC at level 2 to monitor and respond to potential widespread impacts. So under level 2, we'll have all of our public safety and public services personnel present here from all over Jefferson County to monitor and respond to the storm. The winter storm watch we were under has been upgraded to an ice storm warning. And over the next 24 to 36 hours, we could see significant amounts of ice, freezing rain, and snow coming into our area. So let's get the latest details on this system from our partner with the National Weather Service, who we're communicating with on a regular basis in situations like this. They're an extraordinary partner led by an extraordinary individual. John Gordon, please give us the latest.
Well, we have a significant weather event. This is not hoopla, it's going to happen, 100% chance. So right now we went to the winter storm watch to the ice storm warning. We are going to have conditions starting around daybreak tomorrow. UPS is going to get a chance to get their push done before 6 a.m. and get their planes out of here before the freezing rain gets in here about 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. We're going to be about 32 degrees. It is not going to immediately get down to the surface in the morning. So the road crews, Director Burns and crew, is going to have an opportunity to really work hard between 6 and about noon. It's going to start from the trees, the power lines, and work down to the bridges, the overpasses, and eventually get down to the surface. Once it gets down to the surface, problems. The rush hour Thursday evening looks very problematic. I like ice for inflammation and margaritas, not for ice storms. They're not good. Let's take a look here. So basically, along and north of the river in Indiana, we're starting this around 1 o'clock in the morning Thursday morning. We start those in Louisville, 7 o'clock on. The transition is Thursday morning daybreak. Right around daybreak, we're going to transition to freezing rain and sleet. The worst case scenario is more ice, freezing rain. Best case scenario is sleet. Sleet's a lot easier to deal with than the super cool rain droplets. As we get further south and east of Louisville, south of the parkways, it's not going to happen until late in the day. But I would advise no traveling, especially northbound. If you need to leave, get out of here by sunrise in the morning. Next slide, please. Okay. Widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain today, south and east of Louisville, 1 to 2 up in here. So we have a wet ground. A wet ground is a good thing. It's bad for Director Burns. It's good for everyone else. The wet ground is going to really take a time for the surface to really accrete ice. That's the issue. Once the temperatures start going, by about noon, we'll be 29, 30 degrees. By that time, you'll start to see it affect the bridges and the overpasses and continue to deteriorate late in the day tomorrow. Next slide, please. All right, the red line of death. So we basically, this trend has been going south through time from the river down to the parkways-ish, between 1/4 and 1/2 inch of freezing rain and sleet. My hunch is we're going to get more freezing rain than sleet. So as the afternoon moves on, we have folks from LG&E, power lines. I'm worried about power, and they'll talk about that here in a minute. Swath of significant ice accumulations with the peak intensities all in the afternoon hours is the most accretion, slowly tapering off over Thursday night over time. Expect difficult travel conditions. If you got to go on the Western Kentucky Parkway and I-64, forget it. It's not going to be pretty unless you like to be sitting and stranded. Next slide. Okay, so this is sleet and snow. The further north you go, up into southern Indiana, you get more snow. Indianapolis, I think, has got 6 to 10 in. All the big cities, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Chicago, Detroit, it's going to be a fiasco. Louisville North, we may get a little bit of snow at the very end, Thursday night, taper off to light snow or freezing drizzle. Significant less snow when you get down here. They probably almost get nothing down in Bowling Green and southbound. Next slide. Prepare. This is your chance. Fill those gas tanks up. Everyone's obsessed with milk and water. Get the gas tanks and ice melt and windshield wipers in order. And one thing I was just telling the mayor before I forget, I've seen every ice storm I see. First off, this is not as bad as '09, the epic ice storm. This is not as bad as '03 in Lexington. But what happens in ice storms? People go out when they shouldn't. They break bones. The hospitals with COVID do not want to see you. Stay home tomorrow night. Play some Monopoly board games. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know this is a press conference, but let's give a round of applause for John Gordon here. Not only is he intelligent, he's very inspiring, very entertaining as well. Thank you, John. A real testament to the National Weather Service. Thank you so much. So you're hearing it from John. All this is going to create really dangerous road conditions, potential power outages, and more. And so I'm asking everybody to please stay home as much as possible. If you don't need to go out, there is no upside in going out. You're just going to get stuck. You're going to potentially be in a very dangerous situation. So we're preparing, obviously, with everything we have from Metro government. Our storm team and our Metro storm team is hard at work on this. As you know, they've been hard at work now for quite some time. This isn't the first episode of the season. So I want to thank them for the great job that they did before, during, and after the snow squalls that we experienced here last Friday. That was exciting and really had bad road conditions. So since Friday, our crews have been restocking our salt domes and preparing equipment for this next round of winter weather. We got to constantly make sure our trucks are ready to go. We do have plenty of salt on hand, more than enough to treat the roadways for the next several days, and they will continue working around the city, our snow team, and around the clock. While we're sleeping, they are working for as long as necessary to keep our roadways as safe as we possibly can. Remember, when things like this happen, we bring all of the resources of our city government together. It doesn't matter what department you're in. If you have got equipment and personnel and you can help with the snow team, they are on it. So I appreciate this teamwork approach from Metro Parks, Metro Codes and Regulations, and our Fleet and Facilities Department, all led by Metro Public Works. So with the rain that's been coming down today, we've had to adjust our treatment of roads. You know, normally we'd be out there right now brining and doing these type of things, but the rain makes all that worthless. So fortunately, we've got seasoned leadership with Public Works, so I'm happy that Metro Public Works Director Vanessa Burns is with us. She's from the north, so she looks at episodes like this like, no problem, we got this. So I appreciate the great team that you built. Vanessa Burns.
That's true, Mr. Mayor, for snow, not ice. All right. I want to start off by just thanking our snow team, as the mayor has mentioned. It's comprised of members from Public Works, Vacant Lots, Fleet and Facilities, Parks Department. One of the things I just also want to say that our Assistant Director for Roads is in charge of the snow team, Brian Funk, he's over there. And him and the work that Barry Clyde does, who's the administrator for roads, in coordinating with the other departments. So we're very thankful. We also want to thank our partners. Our partners include KYTC and their contractors and the workers that they have. They'll be actively involved in working on the interstates while we do the metro roads. I think that we're lucky in some respect, according to what John said, was that we're going to have rain before it starts freezing, so that will give us an opportunity to start putting materials down. So we should be in a position to at least get some of, as Mir said, normally we would be doing brining before, but we couldn't do it because it would have been waste of money and time. So the Metro team is on standby. We have groups that are working. We actually have a night crew, and we are working with our partners to create staffing, because our people, all of our people are going to be working 12-hour shifts. So we just would appreciate, in light of that, that people slow down and hopefully stay off the roads, so they give us an opportunity to do a job that we want to do for all, and also to be safe. And so I know John, Jody is going to give some tips, but since I'm from the Northeast, I'm going to give a tip that Jody's not going to give. Take those pool noodles that you get or have around your house and cut them to the size of the windshield wipers so that you don't have to worry about them freezing onto the thing, and you'll be able to, if you have to go back out, you'll be in a position not know where your windshield wiper is. So that's my tip. So I just want to say, take extra time, do your job, and we'll do our job, but you got to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Burns. You heard it here first. Pool noodles. Okay, so all of our pool stores, please get your pool noodles out. Okay, and remember too, now you can follow the progress of the snow team on our snow route map. So you just go to louisvilleky.gov and you'll see a real-time reporting of what's going on with treating the roads. We're going to keep repeating this to ask everybody to please stay home if you possibly can. Avoid traveling unless absolutely necessary. We understand there are some emergencies that you've got to get out for, maybe food and medicine. Plan ahead for that if you can here today and earlier tomorrow. Medical care, we understand if that's an emergency. And obviously there's some essential work that has to be done as well. So just plan ahead, give yourself plenty of time. Employers, please give your employees as much flexibility as you can, including the opportunity to work from home if possible. We certainly realize not everybody can work from home. But the fewer cars that are on the road, especially while snow or freezing rain is falling, the fewer potential accidents. To our essential workers, from those working in public safety agencies and providing transportation services to residents who work for UPS, manufacturing companies, and in food service businesses. First, thank you for what you do. We really appreciate your work. Please stay safe if you're having to go to work. We certainly understand that. Safety is always the top priority, and with the threat of ice and snow, we know our partners at Jefferson County Public Schools want to do everything they can to keep our kids and families safe and learning. So they've had some announcements earlier today, and to update us on that, please welcome Chris Perkins, who's the Chief Operations Officer with JCPS. Chris?
Good afternoon. As you've heard, we anticipate a significant weather event that has the potential to impede both transportation and utility services to our schools. With the current rainy conditions and our shared degree of confidence in the forecast leading into tomorrow that includes some combination of rain, sleet, and ice and snow, we feel it's prudent to shift to a non-traditional instruction, or NTI day, tomorrow, Thursday, February 3rd. All school buildings will be closed, and both students and staff will engage in NTI tomorrow. After school activities, extracurricular, athletic activities for tomorrow will be canceled. Now, regarding Friday, February 4th, we anticipate that school buildings will remain closed on Friday. And again, we've advised our staff and students to prepare for another NTI day. And once we have a better idea of how the weather outlook for Friday looks, will develop, we'll make a decision tomorrow as to whether we will either have another NTI due to weather day, whether we will have a traditional snow day, or if by some chance the weather ends up not turning out as bad as we anticipate, whether we may have in-person classes this Friday. Our decision about athletics for Friday evening will follow suit with our decision for school on Friday as well. For this Saturday, February 5th, we anticipate all athletic events likely to be canceled. And again, on the chance that the severity of the storm isn't as significant as we anticipate, we will make a decision accordingly. We've encouraged our students to take their Chromebooks home with them or whatever device they have in preparation for participating in NTI for Thursday and possibly Friday. If your child by some chance was not in school today and you need to pick up a device for them, please contact your school to make arrangements. We'll keep you informed through announcements, social media, text notification, and emails. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Chris, and thanks JCPS for all they do. They got a tough job with getting 100,000 kids in and out of school, and thanks to all the families out there for helping facilitate that. I know it's hard when your schedule changes like this, but Mother Nature is in charge. Now, as John Gordon from the National Weather Service so ably testified moments ago, when we see ice in these storms, what we know is it starts accumulating on trees, and tree limbs start to snap. And when tree limbs start to snap, sometimes that leads to potential power outages. So not only we're going to have the ice, we're also going to have wind gusts. We're going to have steady winds of around 10 miles an hour and wind gusts of 15 to 20 miles an hour. So you put that all together with ice on trees, not necessarily a good combination. Fortunately, we got a great utility with LG&E that will be on the job. So Natasha Collins from LG&E is here with us now to talk about what LG&E crews are doing and what they're working on and preparing for right now. Natasha?
All right, thanks a lot and good afternoon. So for our part at LG&E, we are closely monitoring the forecast just as everyone is doing and tracking this storm and making adjustments as needed. As part of our preparations, we are in contact with our business partners in the form of line technicians and vegetation workers, and we have put them on notice. We are also in contact with our mutual assistance partners in multiple regions. So I think most people are familiar, but those mutual assistance partnerships are those partnerships that are so vital that enable us to leverage our resources from other utilities in different regions. And if we end up in a major restoration situation, then we're able to get the assistance that we need and make that request and have them come here to assist within our system. So our operations teams right now, they are making sure that our vehicles are fueled up, that they are ready to go, that they are stocked with any necessary equipment. Between LG&E and our sister utility, Kentucky Utilities Company, we cover more than 90 counties across Kentucky. We have more than 40 crew centers. We have about 600 employee and resident contract line technicians. So all that to say, we have the ability to be able to strategically locate our crews as we keep an eye on this storm and where it's tracking and where they're needed, and we can redirect them to the areas that we believe will have the most impact. With regard to our system, we've talked about the conditions of this storm, ice being one of them. Our system is built to withstand extreme conditions. However, as we've been talking about here, ice poses perhaps the biggest threat, not just to safety, but to our system. And the nature of it is exactly what the mayor was talking about. So when ice accumulates, we see it way down the trees. Those tree limbs either sag or they break off altogether. And as they come down, they have the ability to take our infrastructure in the form of wires and poles down with them, which impacts customers. So in addition to that, as our crews are out trying to work on the restoration effort, it certainly hampers those efforts because our crews' safety is the top priority always, whether it's a blue sky day or whether the conditions that we're expecting come in. Safety is the top priority, and ice hampers their travel, hampers the work that they have to do in order to bring customer service back up. So that being said, if we get into a restoration event, our crews will be working first and foremost as safely as possible and then as quickly as possible to restore that service. I know that there is information that's been offered and that all of you have been reporting on what our residents and customers can do to stay safe, and I'll just add to that very quickly right now. Get your homes ready. Make sure that you can seal out any leaks or gaps that you have around doors, windows, ductwork so that your furnace can operate efficiently and you can stay warm and comfortable while we're experiencing these conditions. An emergency kit is always a great idea to have in your home and in your car, so you make sure you have everything you would need for several days, including prescription medications, batteries, flashlights instead of things like candles, right, for your home and for everybody in your home. And then some other safety information. With the nature of the ice that we're talking about and the potential for lines to come down, we encourage everyone to stay away from any wires that are down. Treat them like they're an energized power line. Stay away from them and notify us. You can give us a call. We have people specifically who go out to monitor those wires until we can get to them. And to stay informed, we have the LGEKU app. It is downloadable from the Google Store, from the Apple Store. You can monitor the weather system, you can monitor how it's impacting our service territories, and you can report your outage, among other things. So doing that now ahead of the storm would be a good idea, and keeping those devices charged up. So again, safety is the top priority first and foremost. We appreciate everybody's patience. We're going to be working as hard as we can once we get through this storm, depending on the impacts, to make sure that we can restore service to all of our customers. Thanks.
Thank you, Natasha. Okay, everybody, hopefully we're getting the message now, right? You're thinking, I'm going to stay home tomorrow. I figured out an alternate way to work, help the kids with school, and stay warm. So, but what we do know is that anytime there's a threat of losing power to homes, shelters, schools, or businesses, we want to remind our residents how to stay safe inside. Follow some guidelines that we're going to share with you. So it's especially if you're using generators or alternative heat sources. So here to give us those safety tips is Major Bobby Cooper with the Louisville Division of Fire. Major?
Thank you, Mayor Fischer. Again, power outages, as Mayor Fischer noted, present significant dangers and threats for us. So what we have is we have high-risk occurrences and low frequency of use. So when people lose power, they're doing things that they don't normally do and that pose quite a risk. So when we lose power, we do things like find alternative heat sources, whether it be a fireplace or for electricity, a generator. What people need to know and what is critical that the public understands is that carbon monoxide poisoning is a leading reason for death during natural disasters. Also post-natural disasters, so after natural disasters, carbon monoxide is a leading cause of death. The reason for that is because people do things like use generators for power, they use them improperly, and then carbon monoxide can quickly build up inside a home. So that includes, like I said, improper use of generators, but also space heaters, so propane or kerosene space heaters that are used inappropriately. However, what we'll also see sometimes, believe it or not, is people who will even use grills, so gas grills or even charcoal grills to try to heat their home. And that creates a substantial amount of carbon monoxide that can create toxic fumes, toxic gases, and result in death very quickly. So be careful with generators. Make sure that you're using them at least 10 feet away from the home, as far away from the home as possible, away from doors and windows. The exhaust, make sure that the exhaust is pointing away from the home so that that's going the opposite direction. Alternative heat sources. Some people's homes may have a fuel stove, so a gas or a propane stove. Make sure that you're not trying to heat your home with your gas stove or your gas oven, because that also emits toxic fumes and it's not designed to be used as a heating element. So it can also create a fire hazard along with carbon monoxide that it emits. Anything that's combustible, keep 3 feet away from a fireplace. If you're going to use your fireplace, make sure that it's been checked by a professional, a certified professional, and you know what you're doing, that you have a screen on it to keep any sparks from bouncing off. And again, never use grills inside the home. Aside from carbon monoxide, again, a leading cause of fatalities and disasters is carbon monoxide poisoning. But aside from that, we still have a fire risk. So the fire risk doesn't just come from things like a fireplace or a space heater, but alternative light sources. So we encourage people not to use candles as light source. Please, make sure that you have batteries and flashlights right now to use as emergency lighting, and that you're not using those candles, because candles can be incredibly dangerous as well. So again, to echo Mayor Fischer's message, we're encouraging everybody to stay home, to stay off the roads, and to practice safety. But please realize that you still have those high risk and those low frequency events that happen at home, and that can cause a significant threat to you and your family and your property. So be vigilant, look out for each other, and stay safe.
All right, thank you, Major. And before we hear from our Director of Emergency Services, I want to mention a few other things. We've received some calls around pandemic and testing. The dastardly virus is still with us. If you were planning on going to the Blue Water Diagnostics mass testing site at Churchill Downs, it will be closed tomorrow, Thursday, February the 3rd. U of L Health's drive-through testing site at Brook and Liberty Streets will be closing at noontime tomorrow, and they will have a delayed opening of 10 a.m. on Friday, February the 4th. Many testing providers may be closing early or changing operations due to weather, so we encourage you to check their websites or call ahead for the most up-to-date information. And as always, if you're feeling sick, stay home. Take precautions there, isolate yourself. We got to be thinking about animals when it gets cold. So Louisville Metro Animal Services, Animal House Adoption Center will be closed Thursday. The Animal Services is reminding residents to contact animal control to report pets left outside without proper shelter. And if you're unsure whether to place a service request, we encourage you to contact Animal Control to discuss your options with an officer at 502-473-PETS or by email at animals@louisvilleky.gov. Our Louisville Zoo will be closed tomorrow. Staff will be on site, though, at the zoo, excuse me, caring for the feeding of the animals. We have heard from the polar bears and penguins. They are very excited about this weather coming in tomorrow and are looking forward to that, and they want me to share that with our population. Vulnerable residents. We're as always working with the Coalition for the Homeless and other partners to do whatever we can to help our most vulnerable folks get through the weather. Operation White Flag goes into effect when the temperature is below 35 degrees, and that includes the wind chill. So we're obviously in Operation White Flag right now. So all persons needing shelter can stay at the participating shelters while those weather conditions persist, which is going to be for quite some time now. The participating Operation White Flag shelters include Wayside Christian Mission at 432 East Jefferson Street, St. Vincent de Paul, and that's for men only, at 1034 South Jackson Street, and Salvation Army Center, which is a day shelter at 911 South Brook Street. To locate the nearest shelter and to reserve a bed, residents also can call the single point of entry line at 502-637-2337. You can reserve a bed if you use that line. During white flag conditions, Wayside has additional space for 60 beds for men, 25 for women, and 25 for families. Pets can also be accommodated at Wayside. Now, I want to stress the importance of seeking shelter. We're seeing more cases of frostbite. They've been on the rise, and seeking shelter is vital. We got this combination now. If you could get wet and then cold, it's about the worst combo that you can have, so be careful. Emergency Services Director Jody Myman is here to tell us how to stay safe if you're out in the elements and the signs of symptoms of frostbite and hypothermia. Jody?
Thank you, Mayor. Before I get into that, just keep in mind too, like you've heard already, there is a lot of rain that's coming in today, so there's going to be a lot of people out on the roads preparing for tomorrow and the next few days. So watch for minor flooding if possible. There could be standing water, not only before the event, but after the event as things melt. And as always, if you see a large pool of water, turn around, don't drown. We don't want to have to come and rescue anybody out of any type of large area of water. Listen for emergency notifications and alerts. Go to louisvilleky.gov, download the Smart 911 app, set yourself a profile up. This will really help us out. If you set a Smart 911 profile out, you can fill out several questions through that as you're navigating through that app. Medications you take, medical problems you have, if you're on oxygen. If we have a large power outage in the area, we can query certain areas and see if we need to help certain people in those areas based on the questions they answer in that app. And sign up for Lens Alert as well. That'll get you the most up-to-date weather information. Know when the transition from rain to ice is going to be in the certain area that you live in. We're encouraging people, as you've heard everybody speak about, to stay home. But if you do have to travel, keep in mind that four-wheel drive vehicles, they also are going to have some problems on the ice. Slow down. Make sure your vehicle's completely clear of ice before you leave wherever you're going. I was going to mention the pool noodle thing, but Vanessa did beat me to that. Let someone know where you're going so that if something happens, they know where to start that search for you. Keep your cell phone charged. Keep extra batteries in your car. Make sure you have a survival kit. Get that ready today. Include jumper cables, sand, a shovel, a flashlight, warm blankets, bottles of water, non-perishable food in case you get stuck, another phone charger in your car that you can take with you. And we've always also heard, keep a full tank of gas. Leave extra time for blocked or closed or icy roads. Due to weather conditions, this is a message from the Louisville Metro Police Department. They will only be responding to motor vehicle collisions when there's a report of injury or there's a roadway that's blocked. LMPD is asking motorists to exchange information with one another, such as names, addresses, auto insurance, and they're also requesting that motorists go to the following link. It's www.louisville-police.org. Navigate through the website, go to services, and then go to report an accident, and that's how you'll report any non-injury accidents through this event. Stay indoors if possible. If you have to go outside, dress warm, tread easy on ice. Slips, trips, and falls are one of the main causes of injuries during events like this. Stay away from down power lines. We heard from LG&E already. That's very important. Know the signs and symptoms of hypothermia and frostbite. Frostbite causes loss of feeling and color around the face, fingers, and toes. Hypothermia is an unusually low body temperature and is to be considered an emergency. Make sure you're caring for your pets. Check on your neighbors, especially the elderly. If you have a power outage, unplug sensitive items in your house, such as microwaves, TVs, things like that. That way, when the power comes back on, it will protect those. Don't open your refrigerator very often if you have a power outage. Make sure you keep it as cold as you can to keep the food inside longer and as good as you can keep it. Make sure to have flashlights, extra batteries. If you're sick and need medical attention, first contact your healthcare provider for further care instructions and shelter in place if possible. If you're experiencing a medical emergency, obviously we want you to call 911, but remember the public safety agencies that are responding to you, it's going to take them a little more time to get to you because of the conditions out there, and be as patient as you can. They will get to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director Myman. We'll continue to update everybody as we learn more, especially as we get into tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. With that, we're happy to take questions.
I have a question for JCPS. Just on NTI, is there going to be a kind of taking into question whether or not power outages will affect students' ability to do online learning?
Yes, that's accurate. We're hoping tomorrow to have a better idea of what weather's going to look like on Friday and the impact of the weather on our community, specifically power outages, so that we can make an informed decision as to whether it's going to be a traditional snow day, if you will, or if we'll be able to conduct NTI instruction virtually.
And for LG&E, with so many other states impacted by this winter storm, if we do get hit pretty hard, will you be able to get out-of-state help to Kentucky to assist with outages?
Yes, as I mentioned, we are in contact with our business partners. Those are ones within the region. We have already secured 200 additional resources in the form of line technicians who are likely headed here right now. And then we are in contact across multiple regions. So, not every portion of every utility service territory is impacted. And so, we're able to put in, depending on what we see, of course, able to put in requests for how many additional resources we believe we would need. And then those could come from any number of different utilities, depending on how many resources they're available to offer up.
I have a question for Public Works. Just speak about the process a little bit in terms of, I know we're supposed to get snow, then ice. Kind of speak about the process in terms of treating those roadways, especially with that combination of snow, ice, and whatnot. Does that change anything?
Well, as Mayor said earlier, the fact that we would normally be in a position to pre-treat, and because it rained, we couldn't pre-treat because I would have been wasting time and money. So during the course, and Brian's here if there's a more specific answer, it is during any snowstorm, but in this one, it's going to be sleet, potentially snow, freezing rain, which are three different things. And so all we will be trying to do as best we can is hopefully we'll get ahead of the freezing rain and put the materials down that will allow us to begin the process of trying to deal with whatever goes on that ground. The one good thing is it was pretty warm for a couple of days. The streets were pretty warm. So if we have an opportunity to start putting salt down before the freezing rain, we'll at least start to be able to deal with it. But it depends on how long the duration is of the different types of events and how we're having to do it. So, Brian, do you have anything else to say? Brian is the assistant director and in charge of snow teams.
Thank you, Director. Just very briefly, for us as John mentioned, pavement temperature is the big issue. And even though we may have freezing rain early on tomorrow, we don't believe the pavement will start freezing up until a couple hours later, maybe 2 to 3 hours later is what we understand. So we'll take that time as necessary to get ready to put the materials down. Freezing rain is probably the worst situation we can deal with from our standpoint. It's very dangerous. It makes the roads incredibly slippery. We've got to stay on top of it as best we can. But putting down materials is the way we do it and try to deal with and keeping those roadways safe.
Okay, to close this out, we're going to have final words from John Gordon from the National Weather Service. John, thanks again.
Yeah, two things I mentioned. Natasha, real quick, brought up the wind. So the wind is a factor in ice accretion. Wind actually increases ice formation. It's actually weird. There's two forms of ice, radial and flat. But so with 10 to 20 mile per hour winds, that's going to help make things a little worse. And the second thing the mayor just reminded me is, I'll tell you, when this is done, folks, we get a bunch of ice on the ground and sleet. Friday night's low is going to be cold. I would not be surprised people in southern Indiana could be 0, even a little bit below 0, be in the single digits in Louisville. So you mentioned the homeless and your pets. Please kind of prepare for that. And if we lose power, Friday night could be very cold. So everyone just prepare. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks to the entire team here. We're throwing all the resources of the city and the federal and the state government this as well. And, you know, we got to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But we'll be around this 24/7. So just encourage everybody to do their part in terms of staying home and staying safe. Thank you, and we'll talk again soon.